Hello there, welcome to another episode of World of Tanks with Ungainly Titan, and this is stage 4 of the Needle contract, but you might also consider it the first look at the Panzer II Lux. So stage 4 was 3,500 damage, 6,000 experience and 7,000 received damage. It's the latter part that I consider the most problematic. As you can see, I had a rather bad start and a lot of excitement throughout because sometimes you have to take risks really with the Panzer II Lux. But I survived that one. I managed to take out the Hellcat, or at least survive the run past it, and do a bit more damage in that game. The doing damage bit of the contract and the gaining experience bit are actually easy enough to fulfill. The one that proved to be difficult was the absorbing damage. One, you're kind of reluctant to put your tank in the way of damage, and the Panzer II Lux doesn't really bounce damage much. There was a bit of it. You can bounce some damage with it, particularly if you're up against tier 2s, tier 3s. Very rarely up against tier 2s, but if you're up against tier 3s, you can bounce some damage with it sometimes. But that game now survived with low damage, but here I am passing a tier 3 heavy tank, or medium tank, medium 3, and I only did half its hit points with a clip. And I managed to hit with most of the shots too, because the short range you can, but it is a tank that at long ranges you're going to miss with an enormous amount of shots, and the actual range of the gun isn't all that great, at least a 30mm gun. But it's probably the most fun configuration. I didn't play with the lower configurations of it. I actually bought the tank, I ran it up to its use-free experience to get it up to the top package, put a crew on it, ran the crew through my low tier German light tanks and premium tanks until I had the crew trained up, so I had 100% tank mastery. When I transferred the crew over to the Panzer II Lux, the crew itself doesn't have a lot of skills. It was training 6th sense. It was about 1% in when I started, and it had mentor, I think, and repair, because I didn't originally plan to use that crew as a light tank crew. I had been just training up crews on the German premium line, some of them without any particular view as to what tank they would go to. I was actually thinking of using the crew as a heavy tank crew initially, but when this came up and I decided to pursue the contract, the Panzer II Lux was the only viable option, because stage 5 requires the Panzer II-G, which is a tier 3, or its derivatives, one of which is the Lux, and therefore I used the Lux for stage 5 as well. But I didn't like this requirement for absorbing damage, because it basically meant that I had to die so many times. This particular game is the highlight game. This is probably the best game I've had in the Lux since I got it. We're on airfield and it's pretty much a tier 4 game. Lux going to struggle a bit in higher tiers, especially with the 30mm configuration, because you really do have to get behind tanks that are higher tier to do damage. A lot of the higher tier tanks will pretty much, even with premium rounds, will bounce, or a lot of shots will be non-penetrating from the fronts. And for some of them, like the KVs, which you can go up against, KV1s and things, could be impenetrable from the sides. So in this game, I just make an initial run in here to the peninsula, I suppose, sticking out into the bay. Just to see if I can get any spots, figure out what direction the enemy team is moving. We're actually a pretty good dispersion in this game. There are so many games that I'm playing recently where the team just goes one way and ignores most of the map. Quite alarming in many respects. We got a couple of spots and we come around the corner, see what's around here, and there's too many tanks. But we managed to get into cover without any real trouble. We're not exactly loaded up, but see if we can get a round or two off in the direction of the T-40. And then go into hiding before we while we wait for the reload. Looking at the thing, we've a lot of tanks up by the airfield there, and it's a good location, and there's an awful lot of enemy tanks coming over the central line here, but it wouldn't be healthy to be sort of sitting in front of them. We've enough tanks back, and there'll be, people on those tanks on beside me on my left now will have shots. If they try and cross the open space to the base, these people will have flanking shots on them as they're crossing. But I'm going to overlap this guy here on the gap here and come around to the back of the two guys that are opposing him and come up into this location because the enemy aren't contesting it. The Lux on the high ground there was spotting me, but he's now gone into cover and somebody's taken him out. So I can now push forward. I want to get some rounds into this Valentine. Just get the gun low enough. We got him in, we took him out. Panther 2G doesn't have a lot of health left, but I'm going to pull back because I'm a bit concerned about people back on the base. They could get shots onto me. I was spotted. I don't have Sixth Sense, it's not active unless it's fully trained in, so I don't know if I'm still spotted, but I presume that I am. Get the tracks back up and running, and now we can push forward. The enemy have pretty much collapsed. The tanks coming over the top were caught with the flanking fire and fire from the front. So they're under a crossfire, and that's never a good place to be in, because you can't maximise your armour protection when you're facing up against crossfire. Particularly crossfires that were almost at right angles, so that was a very effective crossfire to put the enemy tanks into. There's an Electo up here, which is dangerous enough, but at this stage I can kind of afford to take the hit. Missed the first couple of shots and didn't have enough weight to finish off the didn't quite have enough to finish off the Electo, but we have to wait for the reload. We're into the low ground and we're tucked in beside the base. So anybody comes out over the top is going to expose himself to the advancing horde of allied tanks, and I just come over the top here just slightly, enough to take out the Electo. I then need to wait for the reload and push up into the village to see if I can catch the remaining enemy tanks. There's a medium up ahead of me somewhere. He was on the flank, but if he was still in that location he'd be spotted by now, and there he is. So I can take him out, or at least take a good chunk of his health away. I'm not going to hang out in the open waiting for the reload. It just takes too long and there's too much risk, and there's no need to be taking it. He gets taken out by oncoming wave of allies, so the last remaining tank is over here. I might get a shot off or two, and I managed to get the finishing shots. So that's it, game over. 25 damaging ribbons, 19 assisted ribbons, 7 spotted and 4 kills. Which is not bad. The numbers don't look huge because it's a tier 4 battle, so we've managed to get our 3,500 damage in, we've got our 6,000 experience, but we're only halfway on the damage received. So the contract is not completed yet, so that meant that I had to go through more and more battles, just where the sole purpose of which was to die, really. Didn't always succeed in doing it. Sometimes my desire for a good game got the better of me. But I still had, some of them were actually not bad games. I tried not to cause my team a loss at any point. But we have a showdown here against the Wolverine. Two tiers above me, and he's wrecked my turret. And I'm caught waiting for the reload, which is a problem because he's actually managed to get ahead of me with his turret, and he's caught me coming around the rocks there. So this guy's caught me in the open field as I was trying to leave. Having a bit of skirmish here with an A20. Some of this circular fighting is something I actually need to get better at, because if you're up against people that are good at it, they're actually very good at it, and they're obviously able to aim manually while doing it. They're not relying on auto aim, and this is a huge advantage if you can do this, because you're more effective, and it's very hard to actually auto aim on a tightly circling bunch of tanks. Managed to get this stage done, I think in about 18 games. I thought it was 28 games, but it turned out that I had duplicated, copied games into the folder when I was copying over from the machine where I was doing the recording on. which made it seem a lot worse than it was. But yeah, about 18 games to complete the whole lot. And I would say, well, pretty much every game that I did is shown here, so you can look at the different maps and probably count off the number of extra games it cost me. But it was quite a few extra games just to get all the necessary damage absorbed points that I could manage in order to complete that side of the mission. Very, very problematic part of the mission because it does encourage, it just encourages bad play. I mean, I would be, well, it wouldn't have been quicker because I had only one tank eligible for it. YOLOing into the enemy tanks at the start. This is a game where I completely failed because I didn't take any damage at all. And this is the last game where I managed to do it. Yes, Abby. But yes, YOLOing in wouldn't do much good when I had only one tank that was eligible. As you can see, the Abby one was a pretty poor game on my part. I didn't actually survive. Got taken out very early in that game. Still got a 3rd class mastery. So that was stage 4 complete, and then it was on to stage 5. Which wasn't hard because it was mostly experience. Starting the fire was the most difficult bit. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a like. If you have not already done so, please give the channel a subscription. I'll catch you all soon. Bye for now.